happy to have you here, so we'll introduce ourselves. I'm Shelley Cruz. I am the Director of Education here at Greenspring. This is going to be the beginning of my 5th year at Greenspring, my 30th year in education. Not all, but the majority in Montessori. I have 3 adult children who are also Montessori alone, so I really do believe in it because I put all 3 of mine through it. They're now out in the world, beyond college, doing adulting type of things. In the world, living their lives. So that's me.
I'm Lydia Farmer. I have been a children's house guide here for, I'm starting to realize that once it gets over 10, it's like, you just don't, it's hard. You're like 12 or 13. I should know, but now it's starting to get a little gray. 12 or 13 years here, and 22 in Montessori classrooms. And I was a Montessori child myself, but only at the elementary level, so not at the children's house level. But I have 2 boys in lower elementary and upper elementary here, and I'm also serving as level lead for the 5 children's house classrooms. So thrilled to be here.
Really excited to have you. Welcome. So, with that said, there's a lot of you, so we're not going to go around the room asking you all to stand up and introduce yourselves. But if you could find someone that you don't know well, so preferably someone you do not share a child with, that you do not know well, introduce yourself, your child, their age, how many years you've been at Greenspring, maybe your first, maybe you went with a toddler, anything else, and your child's classroom if you remember, or guide if you remember it that way. And we'll do that for about 5 minutes and then we'll come back together. So if you want to stand up, move around, find someone you don't know very I realised I didn't set you up for much success. I usually remember to say I'm going to use the chime and ring the bell, but I didn't.
It was a tiny little chime.
And it's also a very quiet one. So you can also see we have the agenda on the board. We find it's really good for you to know what to expect, what we are hoping to cover. So I'm not going to read it to you because I know you can read. But this is really what to expect from today's session. We will have a break in the middle because we don't expect anyone, adults or children, to sit for this long. So please know there are also restrooms out there. So if you need to, please do what you need to do for yourself. You go out past the front desk. There are adult restrooms. I'm sure Gigi will direct you. And we wanted you to know that all of the Children's House team will come along at the end of this session, so you'll see all these people move in, and then you will have time to meet with your child-specific classroom team. So the guide, the partners, so they will all be here, and then we will break out and you will get to be able to share and talk and meet those people who I know are going to be so crucial to you and your children. So we wanted you to know that. So with that said, we really kind of aim this session to be more kind of top, big picture, and then when your guide comes along, you know, you'll be able to talk more specifically about all the important things you want to share about your child. But this is more of a big picture session. And we also wanted to know, what else do you want to know about today? What else can we do? So shout out all the things that you came here really needing to know. We're going to write a list over here and we're going to revisit that list at the end to make sure we've touched on all the things you might be feeling I need to know and you need to tell me. So is there anything else that we are not planning on covering or is very important to you?
Could you go back to the slide? So
Of course.
Thank you.
That would make sense.
I was just curious about drop-off on day 1.
That one always comes up, yeah. Also, I should say you will also have a back-to-school night, which is just with your guide and your own child's classroom community. That will be covered. We will touch on it. We will cover it in much more detail because everyone's drop-off is going to feel slightly different depending physically where your child's class is.
All right.
Okay, so we're going to get going. Lastly, if you have questions, please, feel free as we're going to ask, to raise hand, call out. We want this to be as interactive as possible. Okay, so we're going to go. Okay, we don't have any other questions, so we're going to get going. Okay. So a little bit of Montessori philosophy or pedagogy, and I know that many of you may have heard some of this before, so I'm going to do this really briefly and touch on these things, because I also know you don't want to sit and listen to me talking all afternoon. Your child, as they enter this period, as a 3-year-old, 3 to 6-year-old, really has 2 what we consider vitally important tasks. They are self-constructing themselves, and then they are adapting to their community. Now, they have been self-constructing since the moment they came into the world, and that work continues, but they really now, as a 3-year-old, are becoming less egocentric, more aware of who's around them, their peers, their community. They're beginning to push just a little bit outside of your nuclear family, however that looks for you. And as they go into their children's house community, not only are they wondering, who am I, but what can I bring to my community? How can I literally relate to these other people in my community, and what special gifts do I have? What can I bring towards the community? That's the adaptation piece there.
They want to be more contributors, so the toddler mindset is, I do it. I can do it myself. Get away from me. And it's sort of like this bubble that's around that. It's just about myself, and that's their job. But now they're really interested in what they're contributing because someone else needs it, because their community really needs it. And they see that need, and they see their purpose is really significant. It's not just about them.
And many of you might have, I'm sure, seen this in your own children. So they're moving from what we talk about parallel play, where they're playing alongside, to now actually collaborative play. They're playing together. They're actually working out their own set of rules, which with that comes conflict, comes disagreement. That is part of what they're learning. But that is what your 3-year-old is pushing into now, and that is exactly where they should be. And that's where we meet them when they come into our classrooms. Yeah.
They're developing their personality 0 to 6. It's really their personality. So we start to see who could be a resource. Who knows about dinosaurs? I think you've seen that they've got some specialities, some specialties in your toddler minds and children's health minds. So, you can ask Adam about that. I know that he knows every single leaf type. So you
And Adam's going to love it.
Yeah, exactly. He's a resource.
Okay, so this is a quote from Dr. Montessori. Would anybody else in the room, other than mine and Lizzie and Lydia's voices, be willing to read this quote? It's often lovely to have another voice in the room.
So from the age of 3 till 6, being able to now tackle their environment, deliberately and consciously they begin a period of real self-construction from the absorbent mind.
That is their job. So by the age of 7, by the time your child begins to transition from children's house into an elementary classroom, be it here or anywhere else, their personality is really formed. Doesn't mean they're not going to adapt and learn you, of course, but their personality is formed. And crucially, really importantly, their attitudes towards learning and school are quite set. So this is such an important time, and you are all so important. So the way you talk about your own learning, yourself, your own schools and experience, they're absorbent mind, all of that. So you being positive about learning, being comfortable with making mistakes, because we know we learn from making mistakes, all humans do. Being comfortable with errors and all of those things, so critical. That's what we're doing, and the partnership with you doing that too, so important. They feel, okay, school and home are kind of on the same path. We're kind of doing this together. So they look to you, the way you feel about separation and leaving them at school, so important. We're so excited you get to spend time with Miss Lydia. We love her. Like all of that, that's so important. It's likely going to be harder on you than it is on them. And they are little sponges. They are absorbing your emotions. So I know it's going to feel hard leaving them, and I understand the anxiety, but my parent advice to you would be, hold it together till you're in the car. Because they feel everything, they feel your feelings. And if you feel confident and happy and excited, they're like, oh, okay, This is safe. I am safe. I am meant to be here. Mom, Dad, whoever your person is, wants me to be here. So important.
That's not to say that there isn't a gigantic transition happening right now. This is a huge transition, and we want you to be able to really imagine how big that feels to them. but also know that it's a natural momentum that's happening in their development and that we want to make that feel good.
So if you came to the Looking Forward to Children's House session, you've seen this slide before. Full disclosure, you've seen this before. And I'm not going to read it to you because I know you can all read. A few things that's always worth pointing out, and sometimes this can feel surprising, is there are a lot more children in a children's house class than in a toddler class. There's meant to be. It's very deliberate. It's not an accident. We're not overcrowded. They're ready for that now. It's that push. They want community. There's elders and youngers. They learn from each other. They're figuring out how to be in community. It's very deliberate. Our work cycle, we push towards a longer work cycle. In toddler, we start off by gradually stretching the work cycle. Stretch is better than push. Stretch the work cycle to a 2-hour work cycle. Here we stretch towards a 3-hour work cycle. We're developing their ability to focus, to concentrate, to make choices for themselves, to problem solve. They're ready for that. Is it a challenge at the beginning? Of course. Do we follow them all? Are they all different? Absolutely. But that's our goal. We stretch that out. Is there anything else you want to pull out?
I just want to spend a moment on why it matters that the adult is less available. Because that can be something that can get glossed over just a little bit. It's like, wouldn't you want to be able to have the lesson every time? Why would it be a good thing that the adult is actually less available to the child? So they can learn from their peers. Absolutely, I think the same exact way, because the way that they're going to learn from someone who's 4, a 3-year-old is going to learn from a 4-year-old. Sometimes I have a co-guide in the classroom, so we're both giving lessons. And there have been countless times that I've been like, Kalai, did you give her that lesson? I didn't give her that lesson. No, I didn't give her that lesson. And we realize that they really are getting lessons from their peers. And that's because they want it so much. So learning from their peers and having the adult less available is very empowering.
Mm-hmm. And it's empowering for both the younger and the elder children. How amazing to be a 5 or 6-year-old and be a leader. Like, if you think about a more traditional kindergarten class, and I'm not going to bash tradition, I've taught kindergarten, but you're young, you're the littlest. Here, you're a leader. That's so amazing for a 5, 6-year-old, and how wonderful for us, a 3-year-old, to go, I'm going to do that. I can learn from my 4 or 5-year-old friend, and I'm going to be that person. It really is a true gift you're giving your children. It really is.
There's a lot of decision making and executive functioning that goes into those decisions. Who should I ask for this? If the guide is not available, which one of these 25 other children is the right one to go and bother or interrupt? That is a huge, decision. And then which work should I choose to do is another humongous one, because not every work is available to you as a 3-year-old in that classroom. A lot of it is not.
And that's very deliberate. We deliberately, you will not find 26 of anything in a classroom. And that's a thread that pulls throughout Montessori, all the way through to adolescence. It is really important to understand that you have to wait. And what do I do whilst I'm waiting? I'm probably not going to bug that person. I'm probably actually going to have to find something else purposeful to do. And I've had these lessons I could practice. There's so much. So this is what the rest of the world would call executive function. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're actually helping them to learn. And it's amazing that we do that with children as young as 3. And we really, really do.
Mm-hmm. And even if this work that I really want to do is a no, not right now, they won't hear that. They'll hear, perfect work for us to do together. Let me show you where that is.
Okay. Again, this is what to expect of a typical day in the children's house. So, obviously I know you can read it. If there's any questions, please ask the questions. But this is what a typical day. In a children's house classroom, you're going to have half-day children. I said that right. I said half children. Half-day children that will go home after recess, so they all have that time, and then they'll go home. And then you'll have full-day children that will come in from recess, have their lunch together, they have a beautiful lunch together as a community with their guides, and then go into their afternoon. Some of those who are nappers will go and nap, others who don't nap will stay in their classroom for an afternoon work cycle. And Discovery is our before and after care. So that's obviously a family choice, whether you need that or you don't. The only other,
Could you tell us about how long the recess and the lunch are?
yeah. You want to talk
Half
about?
an hour on the playground and about 45 minutes of eating lunch, plus set up and clean up.
Yeah.
So setting up their lunch tables is actually part of their work time.
Yeah.
And then cleaning up would be like the 15 minutes before 1 o'clock is either nap or after your work cycle. Yeah, and one more question.
Oh yeah, I think I saw it on one of the previous slides. I think it's something about like nap with like family input. So if do they choose at the beginning of the year if they're going to be a nap person or a work cycle person, or does it depend on the day what they do?
It doesn't depend on the day, would be the
Okay.
simplest answer, but, you know, you should all have received and filled in whether your child is a napper or not a napper. We base it on your communication with us.
But it should be consistent every day.
Yeah, but it's a
We typically
consistent-
have like every 3-year-old start resting. And then if the napping crew says to us they're not falling asleep for 3 days in a row or they're not making use of this time, then we have that conversation with you. But start napping if you can as a 3-year-old, I always say, because it's a huge adjustment and
Yeah,
you're
this is-
exhausted.
Yeah, this is a big transition. And typically, I'm just going to put my parent hat on for a minute. Typically, I found my evenings were better when my children were this young, and it's been a long time. If they did nap. I'm just going to say, this is and we don't want to give you back an unhappy 3-year-old, but that's not our intent. And sometimes we do.
Yeah.
But, you know, napping, even if they're beginning to lose or drop that nap at home, often families will tell us once school starts, they pick it back up here.
Yeah.
Typically. And we will communicate with you. You know, we will talk to you. So,
Any other questions?
the only other thing, sorry, Lydia, we went the wrong way, about that one, is it's worth saying at this point that it's so being on time, and whilst we all know family lives are busy and traffic happens and we all have schedules, we understand all of that, being on time in terms of arrival and then what you're doing at home, having a really consistent morning routine is so key. Children, all children, but children definitely this young, thrive on consistency and routine. So, and we know that summers for many of us are different and much more relaxed, and I love summer.
Yeah.
However, now, if you haven't already, getting them back into the bedtime you need so that they can get up, so that you know what all the things in your family, and so that you can arrive on time. Arriving tardy is not us, it's hard on your child. If your child arrives and everybody else is in the room and in it, it does not feel good.
And the guide is not there saying, come
That does not
They're
feel
already in
good
the lesson.
to any child. And I say this every year, and every year, whatever grade or level I've been teaching, you see how hard it is on children. And we also understand that things happen, but regularly we really stress on you the importance of consistency in your morning routine and getting here on time, however that looks for your family. And if you need help and support, if mornings are hard, your guides, all of us will be very happy to talk to you. But that's so important to set your child up for success. This is their day. This is where they spend their day.
Because your child will be aware that they did the same 5 things in that same order every day. They can internalize that fully. They're not going to be telling time, but they will internalize your consistent routine in the morning, and it will make it so much easier.
Okay, this is exciting. This is really exciting. This is the first time that we offer enrichment opportunities. They do not have what we call enrichment in toddler. This is because developmentally they're now ready, your child is now ready at 3 years old to begin forming relationships with adults other than their guide and their partner in their classroom. So we do not offer formalised PE with a PE coach in toddler, because it's not developmentally appropriate. This is something that children love, and it's really exciting to have a PE coach. So every child in Children's House will have PE once a week with Coach Bree, and I would love to say you're going to meet her today, but unfortunately you're not, but you will meet her, I promise. She's not here today, she couldn't be. But 3s and 4s have PE together, with just 3s and 4s. Kindergarten students have PE separately, slightly longer, because they can push to slightly longer, and they usually will Am I right in saying they usually buddy up with another class, so they have enough, so because you need more than 6 children to make a really good PE class and fun. So that's how we do that, so everyone
age
gets,
appropriate for kindergarten.
and yeah, and then they're ready to work on different skills. So that's how we do PE, so everyone gets PE. Spanish happens for every child, but happens differently depending whether you've chosen a dual language or non-dual language classroom for your child. Let me see if I need to read this so I get this straight every year. So non-dual language, in a non-dual language classroom, every kindergarten student will get Spanish once a week.
Yeah, and mine is a non-dual language, but I still feel like Spanish is a really vibrant part of our community. We'll hear the small group Spanish lessons going on in the regular work cycle, and the songs will exist in the room, and it's part of, I mean, the children get to know the language the same way that they would hearing it, you know, when they hear the person who speaks Spanish, they understand what they're saying. So I don't like referring to it as non-dual language because we still really do have
The
a
Spanish
vibrant
is still
Spanish.
existing. So
Yeah,
Spanish exists. So they have a kindergarten once a week Spanish lesson. I'm looking at you because
Yep,
this
correct.
confuses me every year. And then they also have a Spanish push-in, where the Spanish guy would come into the classroom and just like any other lesson, the children get invited to come. In a dual language classroom, really what they're receiving is you have one of the permanent adults. The partner typically is a native Spanish speaker. They can also speak English. And they're using both languages all day long, according to what the children or child needs. And then they will also have 2 Spanish lunches where Spanish guy comes and has lunch with them and has just conversational Spanish as appropriate for the children. And they get, let me get this straight, the kindergartens get an extra Spanish lesson on that. And then they get 4 Spanish pushing lessons as opposed to 1. Does that make sense? That's why I have to read it because every year I'm like, what do we do? I can't remember. So that's what's happening there. Music with Jackie once a week at kindergarten. So again, they then, in their kindergarten year, they meet Miss Jackie as well and they have music. Music is ongoing in the classroom for 3s and 4s. It's not like their first introduction to music, but it is their first introduction to having a music teacher who is separate to Lydia and
And
Carl.
meanwhile, they're learning notation on the bells in their lessons, in their regular classroom lessons. So it just enriches their elder year. Any questions about enrichment? Yeah?
I just have a general question about the separating the youngers and the olders in the class.
Yes.
Is that like hard for the younger kids when the older kids are like invited to do something extra, or do they not even really
It's
notice?
super smooth. It's
Okay.
super smooth because they know that they all go to PE. But if you're 6, your PE is at 1 o'clock on Tuesdays, and if you're 4, your PE is at 11 o'clock on Mondays. Like they
They
really
kind of
know.
internalize that.
Okay.
Oh, it's your PE now. Mine's later. Like they really,
Okay.
they know.
It's just theirs, they look at it as their own schedule.
It's mine.
Okay.
It's mine.
They have no
Absolutely.
ownership and they understand it,
Yeah.
yeah. They also know if you're a younger, I'm going to get there. There's a big part of that, like I'm going to be and I'm getting there. So there's that as well. But I haven't ever experienced
They
any.
don't wish they were going
No.
to kindergarten music because they know that they're getting all their lessons. And sometimes it makes for like a special time where it's just the
Yeah.
classroom's a little bit fewer children and
Mhm.
there's just a special. It's like a transition half an hour. And I think in some classes they go to PE while the others are at their music.
Yes,
So it is
sometimes we'll
okay.
coordinate that. And I also know it's been a while since I've taught Children's House, but when I did, if one group was having music or Spanish or PE, I would turn it into this is our time to do and whatever the lesson was, and they felt that because I really loved my time with them, they loved it back. So it's again, if they mirror your own energy. So if you're like, this is our special time, this is what we're going to do, they're like, oh, great, they're not getting this. So they kind of look at it like that. I haven't ever experienced it.
It's another opportunity for the system to be consistent. And it really does make them feel so secure when they know they can rely upon it to be the same every week. So the Montessori lesson, we talked a little bit about how in toddler, everything on the shelf is a yes. Nobody's going to say, no, you can't take that out, because that would be a terrible situation for a 2-year-old to be in. But in our room, we have lessons that are totally appropriate for your child that day, that week, and not next week and not last week. Because we're watching the sequence, we're watching their own interests so closely, so that if it's not the right time, they're going to be redirected to something that is the perfect thing for them. So it's always an invitation, and they're not going to be here and no, you can't do that, even though that is the case. We try to find as many opportunities for peer-to-peer learning, as you brought up earlier, and those work so elegantly, so beautifully. Now, if it's plucking corn kernels, that's great. I'm never going to say, no, you can't give them that lesson. But if it's something that's going to be further along on the academic schedule, the children really understand the sequence. They will say to each other, oh, you're already doing addition. That means that you're going to do multiplication after. Oh, you're learning to write your numbers. That means you're going to get stamping. You're going to get that soon. I know you will. And they'll talk to each other like that because if we are so consistent that they know they can count on us, and they will celebrate each other and congratulate each other. Oh, you already got that lesson? That's awesome. That means you're going to be ready for that next. So there's this lack of competition that's really beautiful to see. So there are some lessons I'm trying to say that they can't just give the lesson on when it's time for the next phonogram. I'm not going to rely on a 4-year-old to be giving that lesson or a 6-year-old to be giving that lesson. If it's a higher level lesson, we may need to have a conversation about whether that's an appropriate thing for that child to give to another child. But if it's plucking corn, that's always the But those relationships are so beautiful in the peer-to-peer lessons. So there are formal lessons or informal lessons happening all day long. Every interaction we really do see as a lesson. So they're happening constantly with grace and courtesy and with practical life. That's just the framework of our day. But I think the most important thing for you to get away out of this is that the sequence matters so much and that we're always meeting their need right where they are. We try to isolate specific skills always in each lesson, and we always include movement. There's so much movement in the classroom, and we've proven that if a child is trying to internalize vocabulary or language, that if they walk around the room and tell 3 people, this is Ecuador, I'm going to Ecuador, this is Ecuador, they're going to retain that knowledge. And the 3-period lesson. So a 3-period lesson would be, this is a pen, can you find the pen? And then the 3rd period would be, what is this? I know you know. But you're getting quizzed at that 3rd period. So that 3rd period would be mastery. And that's how we want to give every bit of information. You want to say, this is, I'm going to give it to you, and then can you find it? And then what is this?
And so much of what you're saying now is a thread that pulls right from our source. I mean, it pulls all the way. So whether you're in lower L, upper L, all of
You'll
this
hear
really
them
does.
at home. I'm going to give you a lesson. I mean, the way that we talk about this, try to hear that as a kind thing. It's an offering. They so understand what it means. It's an invitation. It's, oh, I have something I want to show you. I've been thinking about how you told me yesterday that you loved how the mint smelled in the garden. I really want to show you this collection of seeds that I have. I think you'll be really interested, right? So there's this invitation that pulls them in. We're asking them to either accept or not accept this invitation. We aren't going to force them into a lesson. If they say, no, I don't want to, we are not going to say, oh, yes, you will. We're going to say, okay, well, when you're finished with that, would you come and find me and see if I'm available? Because I really want to show you this. So it is an honest invitation that they need to accept to be fully in it. Otherwise, they're not going to get the lesson. It will not work. They understand that the way that it works is that now, after they've received that invitation and sat for the lesson, that then it's their turn to practice, and they will continue to practice it on their own as a means to mastering it, as a means to owning it. And that's kind of what all of these lessons are in the classroom, is that they're all just these opportunities that when they're just on the shelf and you've never touched it or used it before, you don't own it. It's abstract. But once you've received the lesson, learned how to use it properly, and gotten a chance to practice by yourself, and then gotten a chance to show somebody else how to use it, because that's your quiz for yourself. Do I really know how to do this? take your parent to work day and I have to give my mom the lesson. Do I really know this? That's how they know, if they know it. That's the point of acquisition of knowledge. That's the point of how we give that gift to the child, that they own it.
Yeah. The only other thing I would say about lessons is sometimes when we do these sessions, discipline comes up, and how do we do that? I see all those moments as lesson, teachable moments as well. Oh, let me show you how you could tell your friend. That's a lesson. That just, if you invite a child into a lesson in those hard moments, I have found that all the way through to upper L, that really kind of deflects often a lot of that big emotion around that, because that's starting to come up in kind of.
I think parents too feel like they're being told that their children are supposed to be independent. And if they're independent, then everything's going great. But they cannot be independent in anything without first being shown how to use it properly. So giving the lesson is how they become independent, and you get to all give lessons at home all the time.
Would you maybe give us the words for a lesson? If there's a conflict, what would you all say so that we maybe could use those conflicts?
What's the conflict?
So it depends on the situation and the age of the child very much, and it would be a whole lot better if I knew the children, because you do definitely, so you rely on your connection with that child and knowing a lot of which you obviously all do because they're your children. But, and I also, if there's big heightened emotion, I'm not going to offer a lesson in a big height, because none of us can learn when we're feeling that way.
Right.
So in big heightened emotion, what I'm going to rely upon is finding what I want to do is bring the child closer, either physically or emotionally. So time out is not a thing. That doesn't happen because it doesn't work. So I refer to it as time in. I want to see, do they want to come closer, or I just make myself fully available to them and make sure we send them belonging cues. We still love you, we want you here, you are part of this community. So that, rather than you are no longer, because there's no easier way to really upset a child than to send them away when they're feeling those big things, which is very different to a child saying, I need space. Of course, if they need space, they can take space. So there's that. But if a child, for example, on the playground might be having a conflict about a ball, I'm making this up as I go along now, then I would say, oh, can I give you a lesson on how you could tell your friend that you're using that right now? Oh, so you can say, I'm using this right now, but I'll be sure to find you when I'm finished. That's a simple one. But just that language feels a whole lot easier on most children than you have to share, please share, all of that. Does that make sense? So
But
it's
you're
just
right
a
to ask that
way
question
to approach.
about the language, because giving the exact language, like, that is so significant, and it's the same with the way we want to give our really precise, clear movements in our lessons. We have to be just as precise and clear in our language every time we're speaking to them. But workshop every single one of those things, because we will watch, and then the next day, as Shelley said, at a neutral moment, we'll say, have you ever felt like you wanted to sit down next to your friend and there wasn't enough room? Has anyone ever felt that way? We're all like, finally, thank you, yes, I've definitely felt that, right? And then we're like, this is what you can do.
And I would say at home, and this is a little bit of what I did as a parent as well, I use stories a lot. So go out to the library and find a book about sharing with your sibling, or whatever the piece is that you're specifically having challenges with. And role playing. We turned a lot into a game and a role play. Because when you give each, when they choose, I will often role play in both Children's House and Lower L. I'll be 4 and my name is, and they love it. But they're in it with you, go, no, you can't do that, that's not kind. That's how we do a lot of those things, but not in that moment of heightened emotion. Does that kind of, yeah. Okay, should we go on? Yeah.
I have a question. Is the 3-period lesson, does that occur within one day, or is it kind of split just over multiple days?
Or weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, or months. I mean, you might hear us use that language, and that's what it means. It's the sequence that a lesson would go through.
It can take a long, long time, and it depends on the child and what it is, but it can take a long time.
And it's in every area of the classroom as well. It's so exciting for your child to belong to this humongous community. It really will feel different to them. The classroom will feel huge, as it should. And I think one of the ways that you're going to see a way that you can support this excitement is in, you know, letting your child be a part of your community feeling at your household, because that's what they're doing in the classroom, and they want to do it at home too, as they always have. But I think it's a really, this is how you meet that social need. You're going to see a lot of these children needing to socialize constantly. And we can't tell them, no, you can't socialize right now, because that is their work. It takes precedence over learning their sounds. It takes precedence over learning their geometric solid vocabulary. Like, they have to socialize first. They have to feel connection and belonging first. And that's why so much of our practical life lessons are geared toward that feeling of belonging and socializing and being in community. So they're going to be folding the laundry together with a friend, or unloading the dishwasher together, or putting away the towels and knowing where everything goes. They're orienting themselves to this big new space. They might be getting to touch the materials that belong to an activity that they have not yet learned how to use, but they're going to know where it is, and they're going to know how to access it because they've got to contribute in that way. I think all of these helpful tasks around the home, in the classroom, this is how we use it because we know that it matters. They also know that it matters to us. They know that they're contributing in a way that actually matters to the adults and the rest of the class. So
I also think it's really unique to Montessori because we have these multi-age classrooms. To remember, when your 3-year-old comes in, approximately, it's not always exact, 2/3 of the class are returning. Now sometimes it's a little less than that, depending how many returners we have and new students. That's amazing because you have all these children who are ready and want to invite in. They literally want to be elders and want to invite in. It's amazing. So it's not just Lydia and Clyde inviting in your new child, it's all of the returners. That really feels like, wow, I'm part of this community and they want me and I'm important. Because they do. The elders genuinely do. Because it means they also get to be an elder there as well. But that's a really different feeling, I think, than going into a pre-K class when everyone's new. It just feels very different to me.
we also want to know all of those little tips that are going to help us get to know your child better. Like, I have put work on the shelf this week because a parent told me my child loves dinosaurs and knows all of them. So they're going to arrive and they're going to see, I know about this. This place is for me, right? And we want them to feel that over and over again. And we want the guide to say, oh, I saw your dog yesterday. You know, like, we want them to be belonging in that way, in that familial way.
Do you want to say anything about classroom agreements? Because that's also a big piece, I think, about
Oh,
how we create a
Classroom agreements are so beautiful because they're created by the elders each year. A classroom agreement would be something that it's written in beautiful children's decorations, and it's up on the wall. And it's, we have them as adults too. We have our agreements of professional excellence, and then we have the children's agreements to belong in the classroom. And it's just, we ask the children to decide, what do you want this space to feel like? What do you want your classroom to feel like? And what do we need to do to make sure it feels that way? And then if something goes wrong, what can we do to bring back that feeling again? So we meet 3 different sessions with the elders to go through those 3 topics. And the agreements usually end up looking like, in my classroom, it feels beautiful, safe, special, lovely, you know. In order for it to feel that way, we need to put away our things. We need to know where everything goes. We need to use kind voices and speak to each other with respectful language. And then if it doesn't go that way, we can invite our friends to have a conversation at the Peace Rug, or we can go do work that makes us feel great about ourselves. And if they've gone through this, what if, what can we do to fix it, and then they will hold each other to that. Don't forget, the agreement says that we can't step on each other's work rugs because it might mess up something that they've been working really hard on. So remember, walk around and you'll hear the children say that to each other, and it works so much better if the child says that than the adult. So we have lots of advocates for our agreements.
And they take it very seriously. I mean, it's their room. They do really feel it, and they want it to feel a certain
And it's
way.
their words. I mean, they brainstormed those words and wrote them. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is.
Who would like to read this Maria Montessori quote? Go ahead.
It is well to cultivate a friendly feeling towards error, to treat it as a companion inseparable from our lives, as something having a purpose, which it truly has.
You think of it almost like if the cut didn't hurt, you wouldn't know to care for it. There's a reason why we have error, so that we can learn from it. It's a good thing. It's a friendly thing. Friendliness with error is one of my favorite parts of living as a Montessorian. And I think letting the children see you as a person who can make a mistake in all your power and glory as the adult, that really is empowering for the child to see that even Miss Shelley,
Even
Miss Shelley,
Never Miss Shelley.
think of it in terms of learning their handwriting skills. I will model writing my formation of a letter, and I'll say, oh, no, that's too narrow. I want it to be a little bit wider. Even that little subtle thing, because they think my handwriting is perfect. When they see me be able to have a friendliness with error, that really allows them to do it for themselves too, and to see that it's part of life and it's how we grow and it's good. It's good. And I think these two images really work well to show that in a Montessori classroom, it's not another person telling you that something is wrong. It's the material telling you that something doesn't seem right. The material is going to be what tells you that. And that's true of the sensorial materials, as you see in these two lessons. These are the knobbed cylinder blocks. This child is so advanced with her practice that she's now doing all four together. These are introduced one at a time. We might have one with a blindfold. We might have one with a distance game where she's got the block on one table and all of the cylinders over at the other table. She goes to the block and feels, I'm going to go get one that goes here exactly. Oops, that was a little too, gotta get one that's a little narrower, right? So that material is telling her if it's correct or incorrect, and it's her sense of precision and beauty and order that is allowing her to build that skill. And she's using the Barrett tablet, so she's going to feel whether these are the same exact weight, or if one is a little heavier, and with a blindfold, is going to make two different piles. And then, when she pulls off her blindfold, she gets to look at the color of the wood and see if she was right or wrong. And then she can try it again. But the idea that the error is the building, and it's not somebody else telling you this or that is right or wrong.
The other piece with this concept that parents often, or families often will say, what can we do at home to support our child? Like we all feel like that as parents. How can we set our child up for success? I always felt as a Montessori parent, and Montessori really impacted how I chose to parent, and I'm sure you as well. This is a place where you can really step in. So your children are always watching you, they're always listening to you. Your ability to be kind to yourself, so your self-talk when you make an error, when you are driving and you take a wrong turn, or there isn't a parking space, or when you're in the kitchen and you drop something, or you go to cook something and you don't have, all the mistakes and errors that happen to all of us every day in life, if you can be kind and friendly in the way you approach yourself, and not be, your child will absorb that. They will absorb to be kind and friendly to themselves and see errors and mistakes, which we know are inevitable in all of our journeys through life, as teachable moments. But that, for me, making that jump, I was a teacher, had my children before I found Montessori, and then I found Montessori, and then I was like, oh, all the things I've not done as a parent. But this was one that I really was like, okay, I'm really going to try. My children was teeny tiny at that point, thankfully, I guess. But this is really a place where you can step in, because they're watching and listening to you. You are the most important people in the world to them. So if you can be friendly with your own errors, just in life, what a gift to give them. That's my little soapbox moment.
Yeah. How
Okay.
much more confident they'll be.
Any questions or anything? Okay.
All right.
5-minute
Get to
break,
move
because we
around.
all sat for nearly an hour. So you can move around, and if
Is there anyone who wants to share what they're thinking and looking forward to at this moment for your child entering Children's House?
I'm excited for all the peer learning. I think that's great fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for my daughter to try to teach my toddler son. I want to witness that.
I will say siblings have a slightly different dynamic. So parent of 3, slightly different.
No, there'll be benefits.
Okay.
You'll cash in on that.
We came up with some questions.
Yes.
So how will our children address their teachers and other staff members? And is there a way that we can kind of have a list? I wish I had taken a picture of that slide where you listed the name of the gym teacher.
Yeah.
and-
We can talk about that all again, and you'll meet the team. But typically, I mean, you're Miss Lydia. I'm Miss Shelley.
It's
So
a really good learning experience for children to learn from the person how they're meant to be addressed.
Mhm.
For us in particular in Dogwood, we just have always gone by Miss Lydia, Miss Kalai, but our naturalist is Coach Bree. And she's going to continue to be Coach Bree in the naturalist position.
She is always going to be Coach Bree.
Yeah, but if Coach Bree had not been a coach at Green Spring first, and she arrived and said, you know, I'd like you to call me Bree. I don't want to be called Miss Bree. I want to be called Bree. Like, some people are going to say what they want to be called, and then it's up to all the rest of the community, the adults and the children, to know how to do that properly, but that's part of learning how to address all people. So it'll go, you know, room by room. They're going to let you know what they want to be addressed as.
And if you can't remember some staff members' names, we do have a staff page on our website. So if they're like Bree and you're like, or you're like, oh, the PE person, but I can't remember their name, you can totally just look at the staff page. Yeah.
Also,
Does that stand for señorita, though, the earlier slide? That's what
Senora.
Senora. You got thrown completely under the bus. Senora.
My child had a maestra.
Yes.
He had to refer to the maestra. So Senora Karen, Senora Ale.
Yeah. And also we model that with the children. So when I meet new children, if I'm in a classroom, now I'm not in a classroom, but when I was and when I go into classrooms, I will ask children how they would like me to address them in terms of their name, you know, and I ask them to correct me. Am I saying that correctly? Because not all children want to be known by Alexander. They may want an Alex, they may want an Al. I follow the child, we follow the child. So we kind of model that with them as well.
That's another friendliness with error, is in front of your child to say to another adult, what should we call you? Or to model for somebody, I know I'm supposed to know your name. I'm so sorry, I forgot. Could you remind me? For them to see an adult asking for that kind of help is really empowering. Great question.
That's a good question. Any other questions or excitements?
I had a quick question about the enrichment and the naturalist. I didn't see that on there. I just wanted to hear a little bit more about that.
The naturalist is part of the classroom. It's actually like a third guide. The naturalist is typically shared between 2 Children's House classrooms. So some children, for one classroom, because we have 5. So there's 2 classes together, 2 classes together, and 1 class on its own. And the naturalist is the adult in the outdoor environment, the outdoor part of the classroom. So that person is there in the mornings and has children from 2 different classrooms or 1 classroom coming to work in an outdoor environment, which is an extension of the Children's House classroom. We're so lucky to have them.
So they can just go out there where they want, the kids can?
No, we typically have a schedule, And the children are invited out twice a week for their time in the outdoor environment. So that's another one of those things that we provide so much security by keeping the same schedule, so the child will know, no, it's not my day-to-day, but I see your name on the outdoor environment today, so you should make sure you keep your outdoor shoes on, because it's your day right now. And they really will understand our systems and know that they don't have to ask or worry about it, because their day is going to be on a different day.
Yeah, they kind of relax knowing I'm a Wednesday outdoor environment person. They get it and they just relax about it. And obviously we remind them and let them know if they have questions. But yeah, when we get, just before the team comes, we will put up each classroom and you can see all the adults' names. So often people want to take a picture of that, please feel free. So you can know who the adults are by name that your child will have every day in their classroom. So we'll make sure you can do that. Yes. And we'll go on.
They just graduated.
Yeah.
They're 6 now.
They're going to lower They're in lower L.
So now we're going to go through all the areas of the environment. This is the first area, practical life. Practical life is really how the classroom is woven together. It is everything we've been talking about in terms of your grace and courtesy, your conversations, your community building, your belonging. All of this is happening through the fabric of practical life. It's meeting all those needs for, I can do it by myself, I can do it for my community. I'm going to make a beautiful flower arrangement so that our lunch table just looks so ready for us to sit down for lunch. Or I'm going to fold all the napkins and put them away. And then when we set the tables for lunch, they'll be right there. Right? Like all of these efforts of practical life that the child is building themselves and they're belonging through, it is their work. So we have, often they'll make an extra special snack they can share around in the morning. Food is a big one, so that if the child feels hungry but they've already eaten the snack that the school provides, we might have apple cutting or peeling and cutting a cucumber or making crackers and cream cheese or making an extra special snack so that they can then put it on a tray and go around with toothpicks and serve their friends and they don't have to get their hands dirty touching their work. These kinds of ways that they can contribute, building habits of work in practical life. We talked a lot about grace and courtesy, but children helping each other. Imagine 26 children all putting snowsuits on. Like, they're helping each other. This is what we see constantly. Taking care of the environment, really having an impact. This child is sanding his outdoor environment fence, and they will know if they slide their hand along that fence while they're walking in line and get a splinter. They will see the purpose of that sanding, and they really feel ownership. We have a line that we'll use for movement in the classroom. And this child realized there was a part that was broken, so she was able to access the tape in the teacher's closet and actually know how to fix it, so that everything looked right.
I will also say, as a Montessori guide, this is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Having taught traditional school where you feel like everything is on you, it is so amazing that these children own their space. That doesn't happen, in my experience, in more traditional settings, so it's amazing to see these very young children owning their space and wanting to make it purposeful and useful and work. It's pretty amazing.
The children scrubbing out the sinks at the end of the day, when you go to clean the classroom after they've left, and you, as the adult, feel like they've already really worked at it, it's not just you, like, slaving away for all of those children. It's such a great feeling. It makes you go home happy and come back the next day feeling like we're working together. And that's really the purpose of this, of the building the character of community in practical life. Sensorial is the other half of that foundational part of the curriculum. So practical life and sensorial are the foundation of the 3-year cycle in Children's House. Sensorial is actually what gets the children prepared for their academic work. So you might not feel that in the word sensorial. You think it's just about your senses, but the way that we think of sensorial lessons is really about precision, order, and coordination. We are looking at such a precise level of detail in our sensorial lessons. We're actually doing something so incredible that we're building our capacity to abstract thoughts and precise qualities of things that we take in through our senses. So we're using our senses to take in these qualities from the environment, whether it's exactly 1 centimeter here or there, doesn't fit, but we're using that in order to hold a very precise concept in our mind. So I described a little bit about the distance game. We're doing that with all the senses. We're matching tastes, we're matching smells, we're matching exact textures. We're also matching notes on the bells. Is that higher or lower? Does that match? No. Let me try this one. Does that match? And you're actually teaching yourself through your senses to be precise. It's integral for language. Can you hear the difference between ch and tr? Ch, tr. Can you hear that difference? It is so precise. And then it's integral for math. Is it exact? Think about how much, like to hold a concrete, we work with concrete materials and we work towards abstraction. Holding a concept in our mind is abstraction. Does that make sense? Like, does this circle fit exactly here? I have to hold the idea of a 10 centimeter width in my mind as I go across the room. I'm holding that concept in my mind. That's something that is required to do abstract mathematical work. She's using the sound cylinders. It's loud and soft. It's like fine grains of sand and coarse grains of sand. Does it exactly match? Is what she's training her ear to do here. This is the very first, big, small, in the middle. And these are the bells.
This is the sensorial scope and sequence, so you can see that all of the senses.
Yep.
And obviously 3 period lessons attached to all of these works. Lots of language, lots of math.
Tons.
And it's all foundational. So all of the things that we as adults think of as language and math, these are where we go with those foundations, so that they jump into numeracy and literacy and all of those great things.
Okay. Language. So we could do a whole talk on language. I don't know how big to get because it's really, really inspiring and wonderful, but I want you to think of how important, well, there's these 2 rows in language. One is about the sound itself of all the sounds and all the words, and the other is like the formation and the handwriting, right? So those 2 things are going to be happening simultaneously, and it's preparing your ear and your mind for owning all the sounds and associating them with their symbols, and then it's preparing the hand for handwriting and the formation of letters. So if you see the scissor work and cutting the flowers and the sewing, sewing is a true handwriting work. This gets you here. This is the first time you're ever allowed to hold a pencil, but you have to do these for so much time to build that muscle. Like every puzzle piece they pick up, that's handwriting work. That's handwriting practice for them. And then once we see that they can hold that little stubby piece of chalk and they feel really confident and they're learning that sound, then maybe they would, be, oh yeah, this is just for handwriting. So he's ready to hold a pencil and just use it to have precise control over filling in a shape. And then she's going to be ready to write her it, because she's already traced it so many times, she's practiced with chalk, wow, it looks just like it, and then we might go from a blank chalkboard to seeing how it might fit on lines. So this child might be doing this work here for a long time before he ever gets his handwriting book and uses a pencil and paper. But he's going to be basically doing the skill on that chalkboard, which is so friendly and forgiving, friendly with error. That chalkboard, we love that chalkboard. You want to spend so much time here before you are actually working on your handwriting on paper. We also want to see handwriting done on a blank space or in the air. A child might come and ask, what does look like again? And I'll like do it in the air. And I'll go, yeah. Yeah.
So how would you handle a child that is already, looking to grab a pen and do letters in a traditional way, and then you're
Oh my
wanting to take
gosh,
it
can I
out
show you something on
of,
our
take it
shelf?
out of their hands, I guess, because I can tell you, Emily will resist if you say you can't do the letters and you're not ready for that.
Right, so all of our expectations, just the same way that we're saying, even though some things are a no, we aren't going to let them hear no and have that be the end of the conversation. So we're definitely going to have beautiful, attractive, stubby little pieces of chalk or crayon, or even a pencil that's really, really short on the art shelf before they're doing that work with Madeline sets. And they know the difference, and they know that they're not at that shelf yet. And there's so many attractive things that they can find.
The other thing I think is always worth saying that feels a little different to other preschool or kindergarten programs is you often for a long time won't get a lot coming home.
Yeah, this doesn't go
You won't see this coming home. Please know that doesn't mean your child is not doing these things. It's just we don't send chalkboards home for obvious reasons. So they're doing it, they're practicing. You might start to see it at home coming in when they pick up pens, pencils at home, because of course we know they're doing that. We know that. But you won't necessarily get lots of bits of paper home, which I always think is worth saying because we all live in the real world and we all have friends with children of a similar age in different programs, and they might be coming home with 10 pieces of paper with the letter if on it every single day, traced. We know that. Doesn't mean we're not doing it, but this is our approach. So I think it's worth kind of giving you that lens. Just because you don't see it in backpacks, doesn't mean it's not happening. I think that's always, I haven't said that in the past and realised that.
Kurt, what's the connection between script and regular writing in terms of non-script writing in terms of their progression where you'll see that it looks like all
Cursive, the cursive writing.
cursive,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
This is a huge thing, but certainly.
We've read that children can move from cursive to print a lot easier than the other way around. And also, for me teaching it, I love that every letter starts at the same place on the line, and that curve is so much easier to be successful with than the oblique lines and the straight lines. And if you think of where you have to start for the print, it's like E, it's like where? It's like in between the middle line and the, it's like, it's all different and it's a lot more rigid and uniform. Whereas, like, I've got my approach strokes, and I've got my...
always starting. I would say, also as an elementary guide, because elementary is where you dig more into spelling. That's not happening in this world, but it is happening once they get into lower elementary. Cursive writing, not always, every child is unique and different, tends to help with spelling, the research says, because if you imagine I'm writing chip, it's shh, it's one sound, 2 letters, 1 sound. Cursive lends itself rather than writing a p and then a h. So it helps with spelling, not and blending. It also, I will say, helps with word formation, because you write a word, that word is connected, then you leave a space, and then you write your next word. So it can help with that when you get into actually writing short phrases and then you push towards sentences, which is not happening quite yet, but I'm kind of, that's where we're going eventually. And also as a lower guide for most of my time here, there are some children, once they get into 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, they don't want to do cursive anymore. At that point, like Lydia said, it is quite an easy switch to switch from cursive to print. Once you get to upper L, they decide. They know what they want to do, and we're like, okay, great, as long as they can read it and we can read it and legible and you get your point across, great.
And at our level,
The switch is easier then.
they're doing their reading in print, typically.
Yeah.
We
So they see
do
both.
live write for them, but that's the only opportunity they get to read cursive, because our books are not written in cursive. So we will write them a little slip of paper and see if you can figure out what that says. and then they'll go and match it to something in the room, and that's their opportunity. We call it live writing, because we're doing it before them, and they get to watch our hand form it, and then they get to decode meaning out of it, and that's so exciting. Live writing is awesome, it's the best. But then we always say to them, sometimes I'm not going to be here, and let me show you where all the little words are that you can read if I'm not here. And those are written in print.
And the science, I'm not going to nerd out. The science of reading and writing says that children really should see print and cursive. Like they really should, because that's the world in which we all live. So you really want them to be able to read both and feel comfortable with both. And this feels like a much easier and more seamless transition for most children, knowing that that's not always the case. But for most children, that's why we do that. Is that?
Okay. So this was just handwriting. And this is self-expression. So this is the movable alphabet. If I have practiced tracing those sandpaper letters so many times that I know all of my sounds, including my green phonogram sounds, which would be like A, E, I, O, U, sh. Those are in me. Now I'm at the second period of the lesson where I am going to look for where is that symbol that I need to find to express myself. So if I wanted to write pen, I have to hear that I'm looking for. So now I'm at the second period lesson where I'm saying, where is, and I have to find among all of the letters. Oh, you can't see the box, but the box is here. You have to find, where is, there it is. So that would be how they're going to then express themselves, not through handwriting, but through the movable alphabet, because they own the sounds and now they can express themselves. We want to make sure that we're teaching things specifically like spaces between words. So this child has spent a long time being able to write a CVC word, consonant, vowel, consonant, and now she's ready for the lesson on, go get a piece of fabric from our fabric box. How would you describe that? What kind of fabric is it? And she's going to come up with a word to describe it. It's a soft fabric. What kind of a pencil did you choose? A green pencil. So this lesson, her hand space is creating the space between the word. What kind of a cup is it? So you see that phonogram, the E, we're not getting into spelling yet, and even like the word soft, they might write SOF. It's a soft fabric. And you'll say, it is a soft fabric, isn't it? You're not going to say, oh, you forgot that, right? But they're expressing themselves. They're able to do that. So something like an actual lesson like this is how you make a space between words. Or you want to, if you have a child coming and crying who's at this stage, this was a child who was able to get out a feeling through writing. She had already started cleaning up. She had said, I wanted to do me and you are a handshake. And that was making her cry. And to be able to say that to her parent on the movable alphabet, she was like, and she felt better after she got those words out. And that's incredible. The other would be, so it might be like an emotional satisfaction that you get out of connecting or saying your feelings out loud. And then this one is like a journaling kind of an expression. I moved to the next level swim class, and a picture. So getting to mark moments in time for them, that's what writing is all about, right? Connecting with people, or journaling with yourself, or learning a new skill. This, oh God, I forgot the most important one. You cannot get here ever without this lesson. It's the sound game. It's the one where you just identify, how am I ever supposed to know that it's I'm looking for if I don't play the sound game? The sound game is, I spy with my little eyes something that starts with, what am I thinking? Nope, there's no pen there. Which one am I thinking of? And it's just to be able to identify orally what sound it is that you're trying to access or use. once again, we're starting with sandpaper letters to learn how to read. They're going to read that says N. And we're going to move into the live writing that I talked about, which is, yep, I wrote a word, and you're going to read my mind, and I'm going to write one of these objects down, and you're going to guess which one I'm thinking of, and that's their first time that they're going to read, and then they're going to be able to match it to the objects. This is a game where they'll be able to, I think it's a command card. So the card says bend, and they have to bend. Now it's your turn. The card says jump, and you have to jump. So it's all about games, it's all about having fun, and it's all about relationship. So learning to read as a part of community is really how I think of it. And then sometimes I won't be there, but you can read all by yourself now. Here's the lesson that you can go and practice by yourself. And this would be another opportunity for the work to be self-correcting, because she's going to have all of her pictures out on the table. She's going to decode her slips of paper and match them to the right picture. And then she's going to take the control cards that have the words and pictures together, and she's going to get to check and see if she got it right. So another opportunity for the material to tell her whether she got it correct or incorrect. That's friendliness with error again. So scope and sequence of language. A lot of it is happening simultaneously, but we can't skip any of these steps. You can't write with the movable alphabet if you haven't mastered all of the sounds. If you do, you will be frustrated and it will not go well. We have to stick to the sequence. We're going to do this for all ages. You know, if they come in older, we're still going to memorize all the sounds before we ask them to write.
And a lot of this, I also think it's worth saying, not every child, it's kind of obvious, gets to the same place. That's okay. They get where they get, and then they go into lower L, and this work here continues. So it's a continuum. Spelling really is a more, we often get the questions about spelling. Spelling in a more formalized way really happens in lower elementary, first grade. That's really where we dig more into actual spelling patterns and those pieces.
Did we talk about how we do letter sounds and not the name?
Yeah, please don't use letter names.
It's such a Montessori thing, so I just like to...
When they see that letter symbol, we really, really want them to really fast associate it with a sound, because that is its function. That's what it does in all of the work that they're using it for. So if they have to take that amount of time to translate P into, that's a little more time that they have to translate. And it's harder with, you know, R. There is a sound R. It's A-R. That says R, like car. And you'll hear them referring to sounds by their sound rather than their letter name. Something else. Yeah.
Is there any ready available songs out there that can help retrain us, because there's so many ABCDEF songs?
It's okay for them to
It's
know the letter
okay.
name.
I mean, it doesn't, they will need that. I mean, in life, they will need that. And I know I keep saying this, but in lower L,
You can literally sing the alphabet song with the sounds. I do it. It sounds, it's actually a really fun exercise for me. But Lydia, actually, if you have, a parent has asked this before, and I meant to ask you, do you have a good YouTube video or resource that actually has the letter sounds as they ought to be? Because it's not
because it's not quite, it's not a pup.
It is something that, if you're practicing these skills with your child, it's really helpful to know to have that continuity. So if you have a good resource that we could send out to folks
I do.
Here's how you actually say it's not puff.
That would actually, I do. Yeah, it's an All Day Primary website that has images of all the sounds, and when you click on them, it says the sound, but you can't do it with your child, because you'll steal our magic. You have to do it after
You know it. Because we don't want them going, I've done this at home.
But no, you're right, Liz, is the difference between raw and yeah. You want it to be like just
It's kind of crisp.
You said that we don't do spelling, but we do introduce it. We introduce the key sounds at the end of our time in Children's House. That will show them. It's like a big briefcase. And in the big, huge briefcase, there's like one box that's for the sound A. And we say to them, remember how we told you that A was this phonogram over there, which looks like AI together? Well, it's a lot of different ways to say A. Remember how we did magic E? So there's that way, of course, now you know those two, but there actually are more ways to spell that sound. And then they're looking and they're like seeing like 6 different little booklets, and they're like, there's that many ways to say A? I'm like, sorry. And then we really, it's not that they're going to memorize every spelling of every A word, it's that they see that we've given it all to them. And we're like, you can read this as many times as you want. And then we also give them that freedom of hearing us say, there's no way for you to know how to spell it except for looking at it so many times that it either looks right or it looks wrong. And then we get them to quiz themselves to see it so many times and practice it so many times that it either looks right or doesn't look right. And I think just hearing that as a 6-year-old is really empowering, because it just, they don't feel like they're missing out on some hidden secret. Because they're like, how do you know how to spell every word and my parent says it's wrong, you know? So.
And that's really where first grade kind of, that's the jumping off. That's where they really do connect. That's really where in first grade you kind of jump in there. And every child will enter in a slightly different place, and that's exactly what should happen. Exactly.
You want them to be interested in it. Like, I, as a parent at home, watched my child write words spelled all incorrectly with invented spelling. I would never correct them until they started asking me, is that how it's supposed to be spelled? And I'm like, no, it's actually this. And it's, if they're asking, that means they're interested. That would be the only time that I would tell them the correct spelling. We just have such a great curriculum. We have such rich materials and language in there that we want you to get a sense for it. Both cultural extensions, celebrating holidays from around the world, learning through not only a political map, but learning through envelopes of pictures of places, trying to associate flags and pictures of real people from different places that they can then associate with a puzzle piece and a map, learning the science behind how the world works and nature, botany and zoology, and getting to do research. There's no end to fueling their interest. So we want to keep learning about your child and learning what their interests are, because there's always one more step to take. Like our classrooms, they rarely grow out of our classrooms except for that their bodies get too big for the chairs.
And when we said at the beginning, this is by the time they're 7, they're kind of, their attitudes towards school and learning are not set, but they're getting there. This is amazing. Imagine being 4 and getting to do all these things. So this, I mean, it really is a beautiful, amazing gift to be in this classroom at this age and have all of this curriculum open to you. It's amazing. And to see your friends doing these things and being like, I might want that lesson. It really is amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's cultural and math. This is another one that we could do a whole talk on math, but developing habits of reason. This will be, like I talked about in the sensorial curriculum to start it, to be able to abstract concepts. We have 2 parallel areas going in math, one being linear and the other being decimal. So the linear side of the curriculum is going to have, you're going to learn your teams, you're going to learn 1 to 100 really, really well, and you're going to get into the chains where you're squaring and cubing numbers, but counting every single bead every time. And then the decimal side of the curriculum is going to be learning your units, tens, hundreds, and thousands, and adding 4-digit numbers when you're 4 years old. How do they do that? With the decimal curriculum. So this is the number rods, this is 1-to-1 correspondence, this is like a first year, second year, third year. 1-to-1 correspondence is one of those things that you just can't skip over. Because if you're not doing one-to-one correspondence with your number rods, how are you ever going to do it with your little tiny beads, right? Any questions about math? I don't think we'll talk about it. Math is something that it's just a little tricky for the first year. We do not introduce the math area until the child is 4 years old. The 3-year-olds are preparing their mathematical mind through the sensorial materials. So before you're touching the number rods, you're orienting yourself using the red rods, which are all one color, not one-to-one correspondence with the red and blue. Counting by road.
How do you do that curriculum when maybe like my child's 4, but this is their first year here, so
Yeah.
they haven't had the 3-year exposure, and they started working out of their daycare, so.
Right, exactly. So you're going to meet that child where they are, but you're also not going to skip over things. So you want to make sure that you still start with the red rods. They might not spend as long with them. You might go to the number rods a lot faster since they're already 4. But you don't want to introduce those math lessons when they're 3 and skip over a gross motor and mental association corresponding to the environment. There's so much that gets built that you don't want to skip over. Even though, yeah, I know your child can count 1 to 10 and they're 3. They could do the number rods, but following our sequence is going to make their work with the number rods happen properly and in a more satisfying way. I've definitely given the number rods too soon. And I'm like, oh, why did I do that? Trying to do better, right? Right. So road counting, count everything, include gross motor. 1, 2, 3. How many steps to get there? There's our scope and sequence.
I'm going to do something I never do with children. I'm going to skip over a mindful moment because I'm super aware that guys are waiting. I know you all want to meet them, so I'm going to skip. So I never do that with children. Okay, we're going to look at our list. We did not talk about Carla and drop-off. We did not. I acknowledge that. Briefly, I would say, so it depends which building your class. So we have 2 children's house classes in this building, yours and the River Birch, and then we have 3 up here. That will depend where your Kyle Lane is. I would say for specifics, you should have your July letter, which should give you your day you start and all the times. Am I right in saying that, Shani? So all of that should be in that letter. If there's more specific questions, that's also going to be a really good place at back to school night, because it's then just your class community, so you'll be able to get the specific answers about your class, because every class is going to feel slightly different as to where you go. Is that okay? I feel like I can't remember who asked that. I can't remember who asked that. Is that okay? And the guides are about to come in. So I'm going to show you what we said we would. These are the class teams, so according to whatever class your child or children are going into. You want to come in? So if you want to take a photo, please feel free. It will help you to have names to talk to your child about when you get that. And then we're going to ask them all to come all the way in. I'm going to come right up. So I would say, do you want to introduce yourselves, your name, and what class you are? Everyone, and then what we'll do is we'll break out around the room so you can find your class team and get to know them, introduce yourselves, and tell them a little bit about your child. Want to come in, Ellen? Let's go. We'll start introducing yourself.
You go today.
Hi, I'm Emily Shattuck. I am with Lorna in the dual language Willows classroom.
I'm Shannon Brown, and I am the lead guide in Sassafras with Sophie, and Laura's our naturalist.
Hi, my name is Lorna Linares. I am in the dual language classroom with Emily. And
Hi, I'm Jennifer Schneider. I'm in the River Birch classroom with Miss Jen. Where's Jen? There she is.
Hi, I'm Sophie. I will be in the Sassafras class.
Hi, I'm John Pierce, working in the outdoor environment for Children's House.
Jen Myers, the guide in River Birch with Jennifer.
Hello, my name is Ali, and I work in the Winterberry and Willow class as a dual language Spanish and enrichment guide.
My name is Laura. I'm the naturalist for the sassafras and winterberries. Actually, used to the and winterberries. Originally, I was just sassafras, so I am for both classrooms now.
Hello, my name is Autumn. I'm with the Dogwood and Riverbridge classroom in the afternoons.
Hi, my name is Juliet. I am dual language partner in the Winterberry classroom.
Hi, I'm Kalai Ramanathan. I am in Dogwood classroom with Lydia and Sri and Autumn.
Hi, today I'm Sayori Patinos, and I'm the guide in the Winterberry